Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here today. And we've got a very special guest. We've got my buddy Scott Smith, who's a local attorney here in Austin, Texas. And a buddy, you may have heard him on the show. Episode, I think, 261 you were on a little while ago, right, Scott? About 150 episodes flies by fast, huh?
Wow, holy smokes, that's a lot. Wow, we're getting old, dude. There's no way about it. Yeah.
And what's funny is Scott and I run into each other occasionally, mostly through online events, though. It's the funny thing. We were both speakers at the Dan Hanford's Multifamily Investor Summit a couple weeks ago. We're just chatting about that. But Scott's an extremely knowledgeable attorney here in Texas, helping a lot of real estate investors. But I will shut up for a second and let Scott, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, but kind of about what you focus on, your the firm that you do, because you've got a growing firm that's just rocking and socking here in Austin.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Scott Royal Smith. I'm the owner of Royal Legal Solutions. I'm an attorney that specializes and focuses on investors, right? So of all types and sizes. What we do is our niche, so to speak, is in high level asset protection that's available to the common person, no matter where they live inside the United States, as well as anonymizing ownership. So people in the modern age, privacy is much more of a concern. Come to find out, if people can't find out what you own, then they also don't sue you. So it comes to be this kind of synergy that comes in with what we do at Royal Legal Solutions with the asset protection, the anonymity, the estate planning, as well as tax savings with self-directed IRAs, solo 401ks, et cetera. And right now we actually are just launching an offshore trust line for people that are really wanting to have that ultimate security, which is establishing trust in foreign countries such as the Cook Islands or Nevis. And if the worst case hits the fan, your money goes offshore outside of the jurisdiction from the United States of America. And no matter what happens, you're okay.
That's good. Now, I like Nevis. Nevis is a gorgeous place, especially the Four Seasons there. All right.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit. How did you get started? You've been an attorney for how long? You originally went to law school in New York, if I remember correct, right, Scott?
Yeah, so I went to law school in New York. During my second year of law school, I bought my first piece of property. It was actually a transmission auto repair shop, and we ran the business and we rehabbed the building while I was in law school, and we flipped it, the business and the building at the end of law school, and graduated without any debt. So I probably am the first attorney to ever do that, to make the money during law school to pay for their law school while they were doing that. And then I sued insurance companies for a couple of years, which is really fun because those guys continually take money from their clients. And when they have legitimate claims, they don't pay. So that was my job, was to sue those guys. A lot of people tell me, it's like, hey, I got insurance. I'm totally safe. Looks like I'm totally protected. I was like, you have no idea. Just because you haven't seen it on the news, you have no idea that these guys don't pay out. And they have good legal ways that they've crafted the system to not have to pay out. And I sued them for a couple of years, and I was like, hey, hell with this. I'm going back to real estate investing because it was a lot more fun. And when I started going to all these meetups, immediately everybody starts hitting me up. Hey, what do I do with my LLCs? What do I do with my estate planning? What do I do with, I got 15 properties or I got one property. What do I need to do with this stuff? So I had one client, his name was Robert Pillar. And he gave me a check for $10,000 at one point and said, listen, just go figure out all the stuff that I need to do with all these properties. Come back to me. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. So I actually took 3 months to go figure it all out. I read every book that was out there, contacted all the professionals in the industry to ask them about it, and then came up with the systems that I use now that's good for investors that are just starting out or people that have, 300 homes. That works with that. And now that's what I do full time. And we have a company that grows at about, 20 to 25% quarter over quarter. So we're just blowing up on a national scale right now.
That's awesome. Now, Scott, I'm actually a client of Scott's services as well, too. He helped set up my Series LLC a couple years ago, which we've been using and knocking it out of the park. One of these great things, Scott, we've got a company, Laughlin Associates, who handles creating books, creating LLCs for people. You're the attorneys that run with it afterwards to help with asset protection and creating different structures to protect themselves from lawsuit and things like that, right, Scott?
Yeah, that's right. So what we look at is looking at saying, how can you make Scott Carson, for example, judgment proof? We're going to hide all of his assets and we're going to protect him that if anything happens with one asset, they can't touch any other assets. If somebody sues Scott Carson personally, they can't touch they can't touch him because he's operating through shell entities that protect him and screen him off from the rest of the world. With the modern tools that are available for investors, they can create these high levels of protection at a fraction of the cost from what was previously available. And with a company like mine, like Royal Legal Solutions, we in-house all of the work for you. So we take care of all the company formation, all of the maintenance, all the franchise tax filings, everything. So that way, an investor only has to focus on investing or just living their life, and then we take care of everything else for them. So we're the first company of its kind to actually do that in as a one-stop shop for investors.
Yeah, I'm familiar with, you've got attorneys that handle this, and you got to go to this attorney, handle this, got to go to this attorney, handle this. You're not a one-man shop either, though. That's what. Let's make sure that people don't think that you're the guy trying to do everything. You've got other attorneys. You've got a growing firm that's doing amazing things.
We just hit 40 people actually with the company.
Say that again one more time, Scott.
We just hit 40 people actually with the size of the company. So at about a year and a half ago, it was 3 people, and now we're up to 40. So we're killing it with what it is that we're doing. And so we have 6 attorneys, and that number is always growing that are here on staff. And then we have a ton of highly trained people that are all personally trained by me to know exactly how each client file gets handled. And the best part about it, what our clients are really loving right now, is that every single client that comes in now has a single point of contact with the professional person as their account representative. So you don't get bounced around to a bunch of different people. You have one person, you have one throat to choke, so to speak. If anything goes wrong, it's like, exactly who to go talk to about it. And then anything that anybody doesn't know, it always comes back up to me for me to be able to answer. So
one throat to choke. I like that.
Got to have one throat to choke. Otherwise, you're just bounced around to a bunch of different people, and it's never anybody's fault when things don't go right.
That's the truth. Totally understand that. Definitely. Most people like to pass the buck versus take the buck, right?
Yeah.
So where do you see some of the biggest mistakes that real estate entrepreneurs or real estate investors are making these days?
A lot of people, there's two main ways that people are missing it right now. The first is that they don't have their estate planning in place connected with their asset holding company, which is super important, guys, because what happens is that you need a company structure to protect yourself, especially if you own property in your personal name. That's absolutely the worst way to own property. First thing you do, move everything into an asset holding company. That's the baseline levels of protection. We like to use series LLCs for a lot of good reasons for that and create anonymity of ownership for that. But tying back into that, you should have your LLC that owns all of your property, or your series LLC that owns all your property, owned by your living trust as part of your estate plan. And the reason why is because then all of the assets can go in and out of your LLC during your lifetime, like they're going to do, because you're really interested in protecting them. And you never have to update your living trust again, because your living trust owns the company then owns all the assets. Your living trust just divides up the company as like the one place to take care of everything, right? So that's really different than owning assets individually inside of just a living trust without a company, because you never have updated your living trust. Nobody has. They set these things up and they never touch them again because it sucks having to deal with all the legal paperwork and nobody ever wants to do it. So that's the way that we structure it, which is phenomenal, much easier for everybody to do. And then part of what we do is if we structure that for you, then we also offer unlimited updates for free to it. So anything that you put in place now, you don't have to have it perfect. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. It just matters that it's done. And then it's checked, the box is checked off your list, and you can come back anytime to make modifications to it as you need to, your living trust, your asset holding company, whatever the case may be. So that's number one, is you got to make sure that your estate plan actually owns your asset holding company, and your asset holding company owns everything that you have in your life. The second big piece that I see people messing up right now is that they're not maximizing their tax savings benefits with the self-directed IRAs and solo 401ks. And the reality is that if you have smart attorneys and smart tax consultants on the lines, every single person can exploit these types of tax savings options, right? There's no reason not to. So it depends on a case-by-case basis of what exact way you're going to be able to exploit them. But guys, you've got to be thinking tax savings. When you're saving money on taxes, you're adding about 30% to your return on investment just because you have more capital to invest. And if you're using tools like the solo 401k, it doesn't hurt your cash flow because you can borrow money from your solo 401k to use for whatever it is that you need to live your life on, right? And you can borrow up to half of it for that. So there's really great ways that you can actually save money on your taxes, create much better investments because of that, and be able to live the lifestyle that you want to just by doing things smarter without actually having to work any harder.
Smart man. Good nuggets there. Now, are you helping people set up their solo 401ks? Are you administering those? Is that because you're doing it all on one-stop shop, right?
Yeah, we take care of everything here for you. So we're setting up the solo 401ks. We're helping with the banking relationships that need to get set up with that. If you need to do loans or make investments, we're able to help with that paperwork. But people have self-directed IRAs. A lot of times they don't know that they could save a bunch of money on their custodian fees by switching to a custodian like Kingdom Trust, and then using a checkbook control entity with the custodian there to be able to do that. There's other great reasons to use other custodians though, because other custodians might be able to provide you other information about how to invest, right? Or what's going to be an appropriate investment for you. So there's all kinds of ways to decide who's going to work best for you, but there's different people that are going to be more appropriate or less appropriate for you depending on what you want. But we do all of that stuff in-house. Like anything that we do, we're always in-housing it. Or for some people that work with now, we're talking with another group that is doing holistic financial planning for people, from everything from what kind of insurance do they need to what's going to make the most tax planning, significant moves that they can make in terms of long-term wealth growth. Not only, anything that we don't do in-house, we're going to have relationships with people that we've already vetted to be able to say, okay, here's somebody that's going to be able to help you with that piece of the puzzle that we don't currently do explicitly. And we know that that's going to integrate exactly with what we do in a way that's going to be seamless.
Well, and that's a beautiful thing. It allows you to kind of bring everybody in-house. They're all speaking the same language. They're all rowing in the same direction. And I think a lot of people, they pick different vendors for their insurance, one for their legal stuff, another one for asset protection, and they're going in different directions. And those different oars, I'll say, are never communicating with each other to help you get efficient and fast. And that's how you win in your rowing, right? If you're rowing crew, everybody's rowing in the same direction, right, Scott?
Well, that's the way you make things work smoothly, right? Is that you need all of these people to be rowing in the same direction, right? And when you start going to a bunch of different people that are different providers that are not already connected to each other, even though they're all experts and they all might be good, they all have different assumptions built into what's good, right? And it's usually around like their little nugget of what it is they know, and they can optimize their little nugget, but what they don't know is the full picture, right? So what was really different about Royal Legal Solutions and myself, and why we're a one-of-a-kind company into that, is we're the first one that actually understands investors from the ground up, because I was an investor. I still am an investor. I'm very active in every asset class of real estate, from notes to hard money lending to single family, multifamily, commercial apartments. And so my knowledge of what it is that an investor needs is built from the ground up, and to be the whole pie of saying, okay, yeah, you can solve that problem over here this way, but it actually is going to call you all these problems down the line. So what we've done is saying, no, we're going to have a start to finish solution for people. So they have one place they can come to, one person they have to talk to be able to get everything done. And then everything is just taken care of for them. So that way they can go live their lives the best way that they know how.
That's good stuff. I'm seeing we got any questions here online, because I'm guaranteed people are going to be like, oh, so I got a question here online. So I can have an offshore trust. What does that cost me?
Yeah, you're usually going to spend something around $20,000 to $30,000 to set up an offshore trust. They're actually not entirely complicated instruments to be able to set up once you know how to do them correctly. It requires a number of relationships with that, which is what we help broker with being able to set that full piece up. But it's really the coolest piece, right? With a high-level asset protection we do using the series LLCs and anonymity trusts, we're already on a domestic standpoint giving people the absolute best protection and tax advantage type protection you can get. You don't sacrifice anything with what we do. You're always going to get the best tax treatment. You're always going to get the best protection, and it's going to be anonymous, and it's going to push through a law firm. So everything's protected by the attorney-client privilege. People can't even ask about it. However, even with that kind of protection, hypothetically, somebody that's really aggressive could try to come after you, right? And if you have $1 million+ in net worth, then it makes sense to spend the 30 grand to be able to have something that's offshore that says, you know what, my doomsday scenario is all my cash goes offshore and it's protected. And so I don't have to really worry about that. And why does that make sense? Because it takes you so long to make back $1 million. like people, I think, view risk really a lot in the wrong way. We normally view as risk as like, oh, do I feel like I'm a risky person, or is this a risky asset? And I think that those are two, like, more the traditional ways that people look at it. But the real risk is, how long does it take me to make back the money if this goes wrong? And if that's 5 years or 10 years, then to make back that $1 million, well, then that's the 30,000 that you would spend is actually risk leveraged against 10 years of your life, right? Because that's how long it took you back to work, right? And when you look at risk in this way, then certain actions in your life aren't risky at all, and other ones become extremely risky to not have the quote unquote legal insurance or other insurance to be able to shift the risk off of you. That's kind of the way I think about it. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Now, it's not necessarily for everybody having an offshore account, right?
No, I don't think it's appropriate for everybody, but anybody with substantial net worth should at least be considering it and knowing, like, what is that actually going to look like for them, and does it actually work to meet their needs?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff there. Shannon says, nice. This is the part that I would love to delegate out.
Yeah. Well, we actually find that all the time, right? It's because all of the stuff is a bunch of paperwork, and it's all headaches, and it has to do with timelines and deadlines. And, did I get that piece of mail in, and did I track that appropriately? Well, how can you live your life and that way with having to keep track of all of these little details that any one of them could slip through the cracks and be devastating because of that, right? So that's what we do, is we take on all of that for our clients. That way they can go ahead and live their life. I just at an event here in Breckenridge with a group of really wealthy, successful guys. It was an all men's group, really inspiring time. It's a group called Go Abundance, a phenomenal collection of people there. And they've done a really good job. When I met the guys that had the $5+ million in net worth and that are really proactive about how do I live my best life, they all have done a really good job of outsourcing everything possible onto other people that can cause a worry to their life. So much so that the only remaining chink they had was, what do they do about their personal mail? Because they don't want their personal mail to go through a third-party provider because they're worried about privacy, right? And so I was like, holy smokes, you guys already have everything already done. There's no business for me to help you with anymore. And then they tell me that, and I was like, well, holy smokes, maybe we'll do that too. What if you could take all of your personal mail and channel it through a law firm? So now that it's all secure and protected from a trusted source that could scan it all in and send it out to you, so you could be traveling the world knowing that all of your affairs are completely private. And that's the way I'm always thinking. So once you're a member of Royal Legal Solutions, or for anybody else that's listening to this, I'm always thinking of ways of saying, like, how can I make your particular life better? And a solution that's going to allow you to free you up to be able to work on your business, spend time with your family, travel, whatever that's going to be. And that's what I get off on, is what are the really hard things that other people haven't done before that makes your life incredible?
Yeah, that's good stuff there. Let's see what other questions we got here. Because my mind's spinning here. Oh, so I could travel the world, just have everything shipped to you. You're going to either ship me an email, give me a phone call, or shoot me a scanned document, stuff comes in. I don't have to worry about opening up all the damn email. And go from there, right? Yeah.
I mean, there's a high potential of that, of just being able to outsource your entire life onto a law firm underneath those protections and that level of professional service, right?
So let's talk about that. Are there some different levels that you're working with, investors, stuff that you're helping them out with on a monthly basis? I think you've got a couple packages or something that you work through, right, Scott?
Yeah, we work on a number of different things. Our basic package that we do for people is what we just call it's a simple basic family office. What it is that we take care of all of the entity structuring for you and all of the updates to your entities, the maintenance for them, the updates to your estate plan, as well as being on call by phone or email and on an unlimited basis to answer any questions you have for you. And we charge only $49 a month for that service. Right? It's a bargain basement thing to say, hey, you get access to people that are actually acquainted with your file and they're going to talk to you, and they're not going to charge you $300 an hour just to be able to get some basic questions answered. Above that, we're trying to figure out what are the appropriate service offerings and price points of saying, well, what happens if we allow people to outsource more of their lives to us? And saying, like, can we actually handle like a lot of their banking for them? And can we actually do all of the mail service for them? And so that way that people would be, you'd just be completely freed up. So we're talking to people and customers about that to learn more. What are those pain points and what is that actually worth to them to be able to create it? And where does that actually make sense? Because it's a lot of work on our end to be able to coordinate all of that. But I'm very interested in, if anybody's interested in exploring that idea, I'm interested in taking it on.
That's good stuff there. Yeah, I did not know the 49. That's pretty good. That's a really great price offering to help out there, especially somebody you can talk to and knock it all out of the park there for you.
Everything else is already totally done. Any updates you need, totally free. I mean, it's a payment that you make every month that just says you hope you never have to use it, but you don't have to turn to Bigger Pockets. You don't have to turn it online. You don't have to turn anything else. You just pick up the phone and be like, I got a question. What's the answer? And you get it immediately.
Yeah. And Scott's very, very resourceful. I've reached out to you a couple times for different legal matters. You're like, well, I may not know that one, but you need to talk to my expert friend over here, or you talk to this person over there. So I can vouch for him. Now, you've also started recently a podcast too, haven't you, Scott?
Yeah, it's a Real Estate Nerds podcast. I love this podcast. It's one of my favorite things to be doing each week is meeting with these phenomenal investors and hearing about the worst things that ever happened in their life and why did it happen. Right. One thing that I found through my career being an investor and helping out thousands of investors across the United States, we just hit the 2,500 members of Royal Legal Solutions for investors nationally, was that the reasons why deals went bad often were never because of something you could see on the front end. Because if you could see it on the front end, you would have never gotten into that deal, right? It's something went wrong along the way, and it almost has to do always with something's going on with their mindset or something they weren't aware of, a blind spot that they couldn't see. So inside of the Real Estate Nerds, what we're talking about there is going through the stories where people are revealing like what the blind spots were they had. What did that look like? What did that feel like? What was that like to be able to have powerful relationships with other people? And how did that impact what their ability to succeed really was? And there's a couple of key lessons that we pulled out of that. The biggest lesson we pulled out of it is never go it alone. Right? That you find the people that get burned the most are the ones that try to jump into a pool and they do it all on their own from the very beginning. The guys that are most successful are the ones that in the very beginning are almost always willing to give away almost all the pie to other people and professionals and experts. So that way they can absorb all the information, see what it's all like, and then able to transition to being able to do it on their own. So that was a really key turning point for me about, okay, that's really neat because what this really means is the power that we all have individually is the power that we all have collectively, and that our network is our power. And that's what we really need to focus on. And money is just a way for people to feel like they're being treated fairly. So we just divide up the money so everybody feels good about that. And then we go ahead and try to do powerful and incredible things together.
Love it. I absolutely love it, man. And I'm looking forward to being a guest on the show as well. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
I'll have Tammy reach right out to you. We'll get you on right away.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Yeah, she's already have. We're communicating back and forth there. But awesome. That's the beautiful. What's been the biggest surprise from interviewing people on the Real Estate Nerds podcast? Anything that stands out the most?
Yeah, the biggest surprise for me is how willing people are to share about their pain or the biggest pain points in their life. I think it's one of the things that we can find as that I actually use now as a barometer to see how full of it is somebody socially, right? After I get through the first 5 to 10 minutes of conversation, I'm usually always trying to nose around to be able to see is this person open enough? And I don't know if this word will actually make a lot of sense to people, but it's vulnerable. Can they make themselves vulnerable to be honest and genuine inside of the communication that they're having to tell me about something that's not so pleasant that doesn't make them look good, right? I almost know that anybody that's just all about telling me everything that's great about them is probably not worth my time at all. But the guy that's really going to be like, hey, and this thing didn't really work out, and this is what I learned from it, or whatever the case may be in that context, is somebody I probably want to do business with, and I probably actually want to have a relationship with because they can be, real about it. And the most amazing thing when I was interviewing Rod Cleef, for example, is he was telling me about how he lost all this money, an insane amount of wealth overnight, and how he bounced back from that, right? And what does that actually mean to be able to bounce back from that?
Rod's a great guy.
But yeah, that's what it is. It's the most surprising thing is that the more successful you are is the more vulnerable you are. And the more you can tell people about here's all the stupid stuff that happened to me. And, what can I do to be there? I mean, really, that's it.
But that's such a good point, though, because everybody who's successful has gone through ups and downs, and you learn more from the downs than you do from the ups. And I think those that are truly successful are willing to share those downs so people don't make the same damn mistakes, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's really what it turns out to be is that you learn so much more from your downs, but also the downs are the thing that really build your character. You could probably think about your pain points in life as being the things that are really almost the most important. When I was out here at Go Abundance, I was listening to JP Spears. He's a comedian, right? The redheaded guy, you've seen him on YouTube, has 400 million downloads. He's actually an intensely spiritual individual. And he was talking to us a lot about that in the small group meeting that we had. And one of the things that it was really interesting he talked about was about the way that people connect through each other's pain, right? Like when you want to do counselor, you're going to be a counselor for somebody. You'll attract the clients that have the pain point in their life that's similar to the pain that you have. And then once you resolve that in yourself, you'll stop actually attracting that kind of client. And so his proposition was saying, maybe it's actually through the pain in our lives is what actually brings us together as human beings. And that's what we're searching for in other people, as people that can understand us through the pain that we mutually share. And so I was thinking about that in the context of like, how do we actually connect with each other as investors and as people to have these kinds of relationships that are going to last us for the rest of our lives? And maybe that has a lot to do with what's so sexy about people that can actually be vulnerable and share the things that went wrong, because that's where the real connection actually gets formed.
It's such deep stuff, but I agree totally.
But yeah, we could talk about notes and money or something. I'll have a tendency to blow this into some deep spiritual conversation any chance I can, because that's real estate nerds, baby. I mean, that's what we.
That's the thing. We all have a why what we're doing. It's not just a hey, I want to go make as much money as possible. I mean, yeah, we're all money motivated, but there's things that we overcome. I mean, I've made my share of mistakes. You know, I've had deals that go south, but the relationships that I made along the way, that was how I fixed it, how I solved those issues, how I was really to work with people like you and others that helped me overcome obstacles and make sure that I didn't make that same damn mistake again. Although a lot of people try to do things, you know, stupid things. But that's the beautiful thing about having a network. You're literally, your worth is in the net worth. It's the relationships that you have where you can pick up the phone and call Scott, or you can pick up the phone and call others out there to help you overcome those hurdles. Because let's face it, the most successful people I know have all bombed at some point and built it back. Right, Scott?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody bombs at some point. And just from an entrepreneur concept to piggyback off of something you were just saying is that, you know, it's often not the amount, it's usually not a lack of trying or even action. A lot of times that makes things unsuccessful as an entrepreneur. It's most of the time it's because you don't actually know what the right thing to do is. Or it's just an option that's not even on your plate at all because it's not something you've looked into. So having of course, read great books, right? And you need to read, you know, pervasive amount of books just to be able to have knowledge, at least a general knowledge of things to even have to know who you should be even talking to. But past that, it's definitely the network of people that have actually done it before. The knowledge is great. It gives you the foundation, but then you actually need to talk to somebody that's actually implemented it at least once or twice to really say, how does the applied knowledge actually render the result? Because the facts of your scenario can be different from the facts that are assumed from other types of people giving advice. And only somebody that's walked through that is really going to know. So I would say like your network is your net worth, mainly because without a network, all you're doing is acting on general knowledge, not specific knowledge of people that have actually done it before that can really tell you like, oh, okay, well, your scenario is actually a little different because of this little small tweak that you haven't seen before. This is why you hire attorneys that have been around for at least 3+ years in an industry. I'm coming on 5 years myself for real estate and asset protection because you need the track record of enough looks at it to be able to say, oh, I recognize what's going on here. And I can see actually where this case is a little bit different than the other.
Good stuff. Scott, what's the best way for people to reach out to you directly or reach out to your firm?
Yeah, so you can call us at 512-757-3994.
Repeat that again a little bit slower for those that are listening.
Yeah, so it's 512-757-3994. Or one of the best ways is to just log on to the royallegalsolutions.com website. We have live chat with live operators that are here in my office that I personally train to be able to answer your questions for you. We have ebooks on the top 10 things you need to know about asset protection, your solo 401k, your estate planning. We have great collections of information from that. But really abuse us on the live chat because you can actually get a lot of your questions answered that you want through the live chat and the articles through the website without ever having to pay us a dime for it. That's really the best way. If you just go into the royallegalsolutions.com website, that's going to be your access to the primo information that's directly from me through my people.
That's awesome, man. So proud of you, man. You're rocking and rolling along. Are you in Breckenridge right now? Did I hear you say that? Or are you back home in Austin?
I just got back to Austin. I was cat skiing in Breckenridge. We went through belly deep snow while we were out there. I literally had to muscle up onto my skis to get myself back up after I crashed one time because the snow drifts were so deep out there. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be in my own bed sleeping these nights.
Trust me, I know, my friend. It's nothing better than sleeping on your own bed with your own pillows. Exactly. So
I love it.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, man, thanks for being here with us. Let's talk. Let's schedule an appointment. Let's grab lunch or something, or dinner or something. How's that sound?
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it. Big steaks, you know it.
I'm almost a vegetarian now. No steaks.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I'm telling you, big salads are cool too.
Salads are cool. All right, guys. Well, hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closer Show. Go ahead, like you said, check out royallegalsolutions.com online. Scott's staff is tremendous. They do a great job. Check it out. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. His services are awesome. Awesome. And check out his podcast, the Real Estate Nerds podcast, also out there as well. But once again, guys, go out, take some action. If you're dealing with issues or struggles, hey, here's somebody to help you out, get you over that hump, really clarify any issues you're dealing with so that you've got a clear point and then can make a clear path to overcoming those obstacles so that you can also be seeing us at the top. So see y'all later. Have a great day. Bye. All right.